I want to thank everyone for coming out to our 6th Drug Summit. It seems like, in some ways, we've been doing this a lot longer than 4 years, and then in another way, it seems like we just started. It's taken a lot of people, a lot of efforts to put this together, and I just want to thank all of you for coming, because this would be in vain if nobody came, and I appreciate every time we do this, we wonder, will anybody come? And every time we do this, we think of all the ways we could be doing it to promote it even better. And it takes everybody. We have a zero budget to promote this kind of thing, so it's real helpful when all of you come together to help us promote it. We rely a lot on the school system to help us get the word out, and they rely on the principals to send it out to their parents, and when those don't get, when that doesn't happen, then we don't get the word out. We also want to thank the billboard companies that help us, that give us free boards. They come to our rescue. We were a little hurt this year because it was election season. I know you'll be glad when that's over. I will be too. But that is, there was a lot of free boards that went out for the elections, and a lot of amendments and things like that. So we didn't get as many of those as we normally do. But I do want to thank all the elected officials that are in the audience. If I start naming, I'll leave somebody out. But thank you to all of you that are here tonight. I really appreciate your support in being here. This is a very important issue. It's one that I'm thankful that we have started to talk about, and that we started talking about a lot 4 years ago. I am thankful that our community stepped up to the plate and started having these conversations and started doing some things. Our drug council came together at a really good time, and no one ever gets up here saying that we do enough, because we don't think we do enough. We think that there's more and more and more that needs to be done, but we are excited for the things that we are doing, and we're so excited that we have a council, and that we're working together collaboratively with our judges, with our sheriff's office, with all of our nonprofits, and as you can see by the people that are sitting here, and we've got bios that we're handing out, so we wouldn't have to waste all of your time by telling who all everybody is, but it's really a collaborative effort between a lot of people trying to make Forsyth County be informed and doing a lot of things together, because it takes all of us. It takes all of us working together to try to stay ahead or try to catch up. And so I'm thankful that we live in a community that recognizes the problem, that's trying to deal with the problem, and that's trying to keep up with the problem. And a lot of the things that we have been working on are the issues that are out in the community. One thing that we're dealing with right now in the county that the sheriff's office brought, I know that Deputy Daves and Deputy Starr are here, and they brought to our attention is our non-tobacco ordinance that's here in the county, and that we're meeting on Wednesday to even look at more, and our Board of Commissioners is working on it. And it's things that you see right in your convenience stores, right in front of you. It's things that you might not notice that your convenience store operators are selling. And I have met recently with Senator Williams, that's here tonight, looking at vape shops and what vape shops are selling, and what they're right here in our county. It looks like they're popping up on every corner. And those deputies have called that to our attention, how unregulated they are and how they need to be dealt with even on a state level. And if they were dealt with more on a state level, then if we push them out of our county, they're not moving just to another county. And that they're mixing those stuff in the vape shops just right in the back room. And that even those e-cigarettes that they're selling are so dangerous. They're so dangerous. The ones that come from China, Rick Swope can tell you, they're very dangerous. They're I believe I would buy my kid a carton of cigarettes and tell him to go smoke them before I would let him smoke those. I mean, that's how dangerous they are. So you need to be careful with all those kinds of things. Anyway, so we're dealing with those. I mean, those guys showed me roses that were selling right by the counter at some of our convenience stores right here in Forsyth County that looked like roses that were being sold in ice, but of course it wasn't ice, and that had meth pipes on the bottom of them. And that's being sold just right here in Forsyth County, right at the counter. So those are things that, the thing that would have maybe given it away was the price of the rose was $10.95. So those are things that we're trying to deal with. Also on our Drug Awareness Council, I've got a short video that I wanted to show that's something that we're working on right now with the council that I think you'll be real proud of, that is something that is to come in the near future, if we will show that.
The Forsyth County Drug Awareness Council. And this is Dr. Merle Norton from the University of Georgia. And we are here to tell you about an exciting project that we're partnering with Dr. Norton to produce for our community. So, Dr. Norton.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm Merle Norton, and I am a clinical associate professor at the University of Georgia, and I'm very excited about the opportunity we're beginning to have with Forsyth County and with the Drug Awareness Council. What we're going to do in the next few months is we're going to provide a series of educational programs as a pilot to see what we can do to help the community learn about the dangers of substance use, abuse, and addiction. I have been working in the field of addiction pharmacy, psychopharmacology, and been training thousands of healthcare professionals and others to these dangers. But what is unfortunate about what has happened here recently is that I do not feel that there's enough education at all community levels to help everyone with this tremendous public health dilemma that we're suffering from. So we're here to talk about it today, and I'm excited about being here.
Thank you so much.
Glad to be here. Let's talk about what we plan to do. The Forsyth County Drug Awareness Council has asked me to come and provide expertise to do basically several training series. We're going to have first, we're going to develop what I call a parenting empowerment series. And what that's going to do is going to provide parents throughout the county with all types of information having to do with current street drugs, prescription drugs, signs and symptoms, concerns, what do I do if my child may be doing this, or what do I do if they're doing this, where do I go for help, and who can I really share that information with in a confidential way so I do not stigmatize my family or my child, if that is necessary. We're going to provide that type of training, and we're planning on that to be one of our first attempts in this particular series. Our second series is real exciting. It's because we're going to go into middle schools and high schools and provide the student empowerment series so that the kids will know exactly what they're facing out here from street drugs, from prescription drugs, and what do they do. And we have questioned and asked a series of questions to students, and they have sent their questions back to us, and we're simply going to explain the answers to their questions in a way that we think would be helpful and beneficial. And then, probably as important, we're going to go and be involved with our healthcare professionals, our law enforcement professionals, our counseling professionals, and other groups throughout this county and region in providing a series called the Professional Empowerment Series. And that is really exciting. I'm currently working, and we don't know the answer to this yet, but we may have a possibility of working closely with the University of Georgia Prevention Services to try to help supplement what we do. So we want you to be a part of this. We want you to be an important part of this by your participation, by your questions, and by your input. So as an effort from Tammy and myself, we want to say we're really excited about being able to provide this opportunity, and we want to encourage you to be a part of that process. We do appreciate your time and your efforts as we fight this dreadful situation that we have public health-wise having to do with substance use, abuse, and addiction in Forsyth County.
Thank you so much. And to join us, please come to the next council meeting or speak to someone after today's summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Drug Awareness Council meets the first Wednesday of every month at 8 o'clock at the United Way office, and it's open to anybody that would like to come and attend. Now, one of the programs that we are most proud of that started, I think the first year after the council started, is the CHAMP program. And coming from Coal Mountain Elementary in the Great District 4 is the principal there, Kim Davis, and she's got some of her students from Coal Mountain that are here with us tonight to talk about the CHAMP program. Let's hear it for them.
Hi, I'm Katie Beckstrom.
Hi, I'm Sophia Landis.
And hi, I'm Reese Beckstrom. And this evening, we're going to be talking about the CHAMPS program at Coal Mountain Elementary School. CHAMPS stands for Choosing Healthy Activities and Methods Promoting Safety.
In CHAMPS, we talk about how drugs are bad.
And we learn about the long and short-term effects of using drugs.
We also talk about the definition of everything we learn.
But in CHAMPS, we talk about more than just drugs.
We have a book filled with worksheets and stories.
But for visual learners like myself, we also have visuals and demonstrations.
CHAMPS is made to help students make better decisions in the future.
We have 2 officers that come to our school.
Officer Tony, also known as Mr. Incredible to the students, is fun,
Optimistic,
Intriguing,
intelligent, and
incredible, of course,
Officer Lively is fun,
entertaining,
joyful,
intelligent, and
lively.
Mr. Incredible. Thank you for spending time at our school. Everyone enjoys when you come. You explain the subject so well, and you expand our understandings on drugs and the effects. Thank you for your time.
Officer Lively, thank you for spending time at our school. We all enjoy when you come.
thank you for taking time out of your day to teach us. We learn a lot when you come. Thank you. You are awesome. Also, can they come up here? We kind of have some certificates for them.
Not the luckiest principal in the world. Did they not do a fabulous job?
Thank you so much. And I think it's great that the kids get to interact with the officers in this way, and they get to learn that you don't have to be afraid. You can reach out to your law enforcement for good things, and they can teach you. I think it's a great program. Thank you so much, and I hear this from all the schools, so thank you. Also, I have been very fortunate. Paige, wave your hand. Paige Cash does an incredible program called TIP, Teen Intercept Program, and I have been so fortunate to get to sit in on that class, at several of those classes and graduations, and having a program that intercepts teens before they have to get a felony is a wonderful thing, and to have that, I know Judge Jackson enjoys getting to have a place that they can send kids to, that hopefully can make a difference before they get in trouble. is huge. Now, on to our speaker. When you look at this flyer, ending the stigma of addiction, you might just see this and you think, well, no longer bound, Edward did a great job. But you don't really know what went into how this came about. When we do something like this and we send it out, people give input on it, Edward cringes because everybody starts giving opinions and saying, oh, change this, change that, add this, add that. And Edward usually says, don't tell me until you get it done, until I'll get everybody's opinion together, and then just send it back one. But the beauty of having a drug awareness council is getting to have all different people give input and getting all different opinions from people that make up the council. And that includes people that suffer from addiction, that are in the middle of trying to recover from the addiction. And our speaker came, I met her at the council meeting, and she came and sent me an email, I think was the first time, and said, I'd like to have a meeting with you. Can I come in and talk to you? And when she came in to meet with me, and then I'll get back to this, I think the first time I met Kendra, she had really bright, flaming orange, red-like hair. Then when she came in and met with me, I think it was purple, and now it's blue. So she's a colorful character at that, but she has a deep story, but an incredibly warm heart. And she has suffered greatly. And a lot of people with addiction have. They have many deep stories. And Kendra has God has given her a gift to share with other people. And I think God does that a lot, is He lets people suffer to share stories. I mean, you read the Bible's full of stories like that, of people that have suffered greatly, that have stories for us to learn from. And I appreciate when people have a willingness to share stories so that we can learn from them. And Kendra had a burden to have a recovery concert, and that was why she wanted to come in and talk to me and wanted to know, how can I make this dream become a reality? And I told her I am all about trying to help people make dreams become a reality. And so I tried to help her, and she made it happen. And it was a great success. And I can tell you, God has got great plans for her. And He has got a job for her to do. And so when I sent the flyer out, Kendra looked at the design and she said, the girl needs to have tattoos. And she didn't say it because she's got a lot of tattoos. She said it because the girl needed to have words on her arm like junkie, dirty, hopeless, worthless. And she said because that's the way an addict feels about themselves. And that's the way the fingers pointing at the addict feels about the addict as well. And see, I couldn't know that because I'm not an addict. But I do know it because this drug council has people on it that do know that. And I think that's what makes this council a little bit different. And that's why we want to end the stigma of addiction, is because we don't want to be a council that's made up of people that don't know. We want to be a council that's made up of people that do know. Because how can we end stigmas? And how can we make a difference in a community if we're people that don't know? I mean, when we had our last meeting, I got Josue, who it's taken me 6 months to be able to say his name, but I got him to come because I said, how can we be a council that serves a whole community if we don't have a Hispanic on it? I mean, we don't know, I can't tell you how what kind of drugs Hispanics are using if I don't hang out with Hispanic people. So I got Josue to come so Josue could tell me. And so he could tell the council, so we would know, how do we deal with a Hispanic problem if we don't have Hispanic people in the room? And that's how we have to deal with things now. We have to make sure we have all people at the table. And that's what Kendra has helped, and that's what she has brought to the table. And I'm so thankful that we have a community that brings all people together, and that we all feel like we're equals, and because we are. And that is what, she asked me to speak at the recovery concert, and I said, if I've gotten one thing out of going to our drug court, I told Judge Bagley that that is the most, I've never met a group of people that is more like the Bible describes people to be. They're the most forgiving, the most tolerant, the most accepting. When Judge Bagley calls somebody up to get, everybody stands up for them, everybody claps, everybody brags on them. They are the most, they're the way that we all should be. And I said that at the recovery concert, if we could all be more like drug addicts, if we could all be more forgiving. If we, and that, I believe that really comes down to being more humble. If we could all be more forgiving toward one another, we'd all love each other more, that's for sure. So if y'all would help me welcome Kendra Turner.
Hi, my name's Kendra Turner, and I'm in recovery from addiction. And after that introduction, I'm going to have to call my sponsor and have her deflate my ego after this. So, thanks a lot. That's good, that's good. That's what sobriety's all about, getting a big head. But I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. I know you've already been thanked, but gratitude is part of my sobriety, and the fact that I understand, and obviously you all understand, that we're all in this together. People in recovery, people suffering, and our supporters alike. It's really dope, and I appreciate it. I was asked very graciously to come and share my story tonight, and I'm honored to do so. However, I was thinking a lot about it, and stories of recovery, or addict stories, are all too often just wrought with woe and hopelessness and shock and awe. And I could tell you that story. I could very easily tell you truths about my life that would make you tilt your head and sigh, promise yourself to pray for me and say, no wonder she did drugs. But you'd pray for me. But then life would get in the way, like it always does, and I would just become some other junky story in the back of your memory Rolodex. And I really think that would be counterproductive, because today we're fighting the stigma against drugs and alcohol addiction. And I think to tell you my sad story would insist that my childhood trauma, my teenage pregnancy, my terrible relationships, my life choices were the prominent factor in causing my addiction. And that would mean that the stigma put toward my brothers and sisters who still suffer and myself is true, that it's a choice. And that's just not the case. I have a disease. So here's the thing. I was born on July 18th, 1983 in Lexington, Kentucky, to two biomedical engineers, very well-off people, good people. We lived in a humongous house on the bank of the Kentucky River. It was meant to be a summer getaway, but they were just that loaded where we could live there all the time. I grew up with a mother who supported my creativity and my independence, so much so that in second grade, every single day. I would come home from school, paint my face like a cat, and proceed to be a cat until bedtime. She supported me so much so that when my teachers called, letting her know that I had not turned in one homework assignment, she replied with, "Well, cats can't do homework, and it's ridiculous to ask one to do so." And she made it so that I could do my homework during recess and whatever. But very supportive, very loving. I grew up with a little brother who, from the day he was born, he was my best friend. I grew up with grandparents who were renowned artists in the state, who helped me to express myself through writing, through art, through musical instruments, through any form of creative thing that I wanted to do. Grew up very loved. When I was 10, the person who traumatized me in my childhood, let's just say, was found out. And so we, instead of fighting, we chose flight and to acknowledge anything about it. So we lived in West Virginia for 2 years, and it was kind of a nice respite considering the said trauma. And when I was 13, my parents totally ruined my life and made me move to a place called Cumming, Georgia. And even though I felt like it was the end of the world, I still excelled. I did great in language arts at North Forsyth High School. In fact, got a perfect score on my high school graduation test. I was accepted at 16 to 2 of the most prestigious performing arts colleges in New York City. And the only reason I didn't go is because February of my senior year, I found out I was pregnant with my son. Even then, even after that, my family still stood behind me. I guess I should say that I'm not telling you this to brag about my super awesome life. I just want you to know that's where some addicts come from. I am not above anything. I'm not better than anyone. None of you are. No one is. We are not immune to disease. We are not immune to addiction. I started imbibing, I guess. And when I say imbibing, I mean just doing whatever the heck I could get my hands on in high school, except for opiates, so it was easy for me to put down. And then finally, when I was 21, I had a headache, and my really good friend at work, best friend, I'd known him for 2 months, and he just got out of prison for beating somebody up with a lead pipe, gave me a pill. And obviously you take it, because that's totally cool, right? So I took it, and that was that. I was an addict. It's funny. I got into opiates, got into heroin, and I did that for a really long time, off and on. Dried and using, never working a recovery program, which is ridiculous, because I've come to know now that that's kind of like a diabetic, just not eating sugar, but not getting insulin. And tends to work out okay until it doesn't. Then in 2014, I met that guy over there, Mr. Judge Bagley. We're best friends now. Got arrested for a bunch of stuff. Mainly has to do with drugs. Funny thing about being an addict or being in active addiction is that this disease has some pretty uncool symptoms, like criminal activity, lying, cheating, stealing, becoming that which I'm not. And I got arrested. And I was let out into the Forsyth County Drug Court, and I could finally begin my recovery. I was let, I learned that in that time that it was a disease, it wasn't a choice. I was not dirty, I was savable, and I was worth it. I was one of the lucky ones. My little brother, who I talked about in the beginning, was not. 2 months ago, he succumbed to my disease. at 26 years old from alcoholism. And sorry. And that's not fair. A good friend of mine, Catherine Rossborough, told me one time that activism is being angry, but also being willing to do something about it. So that's where I am today, trying to fight the stigma every single day. Working a recovery program. I have a sponsor who I like a lot, who curses me out on a regular basis, but I need that, and she knows that. You know, what I've come to believe is what I've been saying, that my addiction is a disease. I didn't choose to have it. My brother didn't choose to have it. None of you all chose to have it. Like cancer, it lays dormant in our very cells, waiting to latch on, to spread, and to destroy. But unlike cancer, Big Pharma can't help it. They want to think they can. But there's no pill that you can take. There's no pill that you can take to get rid of this kind of neurological, mental, compulsive, soul-stealing disorder. However, I feel as though I have found the medicine. And I would like to tell you what it is. This is the international sign language sign for I love you. Also, it means love. I would like to show you, if you would help me out, what my medicine is and what yours could be too. If you are a person living in sobriety or still struggling, put it up. Thank you. If you, leave it up, leave it up. If you are a person who loves someone who is still struggling or is in sobriety, put it up. If you are a person who just thinks it's a great idea to make people sober, put it up. And if you walked in because you thought this was a party and that we might have guacamole, yet you still stayed to hear what we had to say, put it up. This, people, is what it's going to take. There are no council members here right now. There are no addicts. There are no, well, there are lots of cops. They're wearing the uniforms. Hey, put them up, buddies. Get them up. Thank you for all of you that did. This love, empathy, understanding, kindness, non-judgmental attitudes toward people who are suffering through a disease is what it's going to take. The sea of love that I just saw is going to keep me sober for the next 24 hours. So I quite literally owe you my life. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for helping us fight the stigma.
Thank you, Kendra. And you need to do great. She speaks 3 languages. All right, now to our panel. We have had questions submitted, and we have had questions, and some of these questions are some of the questions that Dr. Norton are asking as well. We've had some of these questions that came in from parents that were asking and that asked questions. And I just want to say that people on our panel are, some of them, as you can see in your brochure, are recovering addicts. Some of them have lost, have got children in recovery. So I will start off by asking, Dallas Getty. Dallas, let's ask you first. I'm sometimes around people that use drugs. What should I do if I find someone passed out and can't get them away?
To help answer that question, I'd like to tell you a personal story that I think will frame the answer to that. It's a situation that happens tens of thousands of times across this country every year. I have a grandson named Jeffrey, who in high school had his wisdom teeth out, got his first opiates, and instantly liked the effect. He continued to source out those pills while in high school, and when we found out about it as a family, we treated that as a behavioral problem. Like, stop that, don't do that anymore. And what we did not realize is that he had gone from use to abuse to addiction. And he had crossed that line that you just heard about, that chemical and neurological change in the brain that never goes back to normal. So he struggled through high school. He struggled through his first year of college while we were trying to deal with that. And then checked himself into recovery. After 6 months in recovery, he came home, he lived with his parents, he got a full-time job, he had a drug-free life. He had a drug-free life for over 2 years until he went out one night with an old friend that he'd done drugs with before. He had alcohol, he had opiates again. His tolerance probably had gone down through those 2 years of not using drugs. And he got in a very bad way. So that young man he was with brought him home. Brought him home, helped him walk upstairs, let him lie down in his own bed. Stayed with him until he couldn't get him away. So now that's the situation that many people find themselves in. It either happened on it or someone is with them. More times than not, there's someone around who observes this. So what didn't happen? First, the young man did not call 911. In 2014, our legislature passed the 911 medical amnesty law, which provides amnesty to a person who will call to save someone who's in overdose condition. But that didn't happen. So the first thing you would do, if you ever see an overdose situation, call 911. The second thing, naloxone, or Narcan, is a miracle drug that's been around since the early 70s that can reverse an opiate overdose in minutes. And the 2014 law has now made that widely available. Anyone in this room should be able to get naloxone and have it. And hopefully by next year, we can do that on a much expanded basis that we're working on now. It can come in a little aerosol container like this. You can get it through your doctor in the drugstore. And spray it in the nose will reverse that opiate overdose in minutes. But that night for Jeffrey, there was no naloxone in that house. And neither did the police, who are often the very first to arrive on the scene, did not have naloxone. Third, there's some first aid for overdose recovery, that can, not recovery, but can help extend that life until help arrives. So, in the back of the room, the Think About It table, if you want one, has this little checklist of what can you do to help extend that life. One of those items is to have naloxone, but the others can help extend that life till help arrives. Call 911. If you are remotely going to be around someone who might be an overdose, buy naloxone and have it in your purse or in your home. And third, go on the internet and learn the things you can do, first aid, to extend that life.
Thank you. Heather Hayes is with us tonight. And Heather, can you tell us about why is it so important, the age when you first start using drugs or alcohol?
Thanks, Cindy. Can y'all hear me okay? A lot of parents come to me and will ask questions like, why is it such a big deal if my kid drinks or smokes marijuana? Particularly baby boomers, they'll say things like, we did it, I don't know what the big deal is, won't they outgrow it?
And if you hear anything tonight in reference to that, it's that when you have immature, undeveloped brains, because we now know that the brain is not developed until you're at least 22 to 25 years old. When you pour drugs or alcohol on top of an immature, undeveloped brain, it can cause a lot of problems. It can stunt emotional growth. Marijuana in particular stops the myelination process, which is how your brain grows. So we are really seeing a lot of kids now that are having mental health issues that have developed from early drug use, cognitive thinking problems, brain damage. And some of it's reversible if they stop and some of it isn't. The other thing that we know is that the earlier someone takes their first drug or drink, the higher the likelihood that they're going to become addicted later on. So the longer you can help prevent that, stop kids from trying that first drug or that first drink, the less likelihood that they're going to become addicted. And I think that has to do with pouring drugs and alcohol in that immature, undeveloped, fragile brain.
All right, staying on that same underage minor train of thought, Tom Little, kids say now that it's big for them to say to their parents, all my friends are drinking. All my friends, they're underage, but everyone's doing it. They're all smoking weed, they're all drinking, and it's no big deal. What are the risks if they do get caught? Why could it be a big deal? What does a teen have to lose?
Well, what does a teen have to lose who's using alcohol and marijuana? It's going to span the range of everything from if they get caught and they get put into the judicial process, that could be something that could be reportable. You'd have to put onto a college background. You have to put on if you haven't had any run-ins with police, if you have any types of convictions. We know that although the law has changed recently with marijuana convictions no longer directly associates with driver's license suspension, alcohol does still tie directly. Whether it's some of the things, there's some differences with minor in possession. You know, if they're the driver of the vehicle, but it's not a DUI, it can still relate to license suspensions. Different limits of the DUI can equal anything from 6 months to a year of license suspension type things. All the way across the board, they're really, we do have programs that we can put them into with the courts, but there's really not a lot of positive outcome to be getting caught in those early stages, especially while you're trying to get out of high school and looking towards secondary education. The military is ultra selective right now, and that can be a real dream killer for somebody who's looking to go that route as well.
Going to our defense lawyer, John Wright, and staying with that subject, but what happens, we're having a lot of people talk to us about social hosting, and a lot of people say that there are parents that are giving alcohol to underage kids, and they're having parties in their neighborhoods and having parties at their house, and they're giving kids that are underage drinks and allowing things to go on in their home. What risk do those parents pose to themselves as well?
Well, where it ends up, where it starts off is, it's called contributing delinquency of a minor. And the basic problem is, and this happened here in Forsyth County probably a year ago, so we had 3 teenage boys that left the party pretty drunk, and they missed a curve out here on Kelly Mill, and one of them was thrown from the vehicle and killed. For the parents that allow this sort of thing, and you know, I come from a generation where it was no big deal either, but for the parents that allow this sort of thing and kind of just turn a blind eye to it, what ends up happening is you get arrested and you get taken to jail. And from there, you have to bond out, which is expensive, hiring a bonds person. And then usually you have to hire a guy like me, which I can tell you is pretty expensive as well, to get you out of this mess if we can. Sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. The penalties can be severe on a civil side. although Georgia doesn't have yet strict liability for somebody that provides alcohol, we're one of the few states that don't. And the lawyers that do personal injury and things of that nature, the guys you see on TV, one call, that's all, are constantly knocking at the door to try to find some way to get in to your homeowner's policy to get money that they take a third of to do those rotten commercials. So while being a cool parent may be a cool thing, most of us who are parents aren't here to be friends of our children, we're here to protect them. And we have the charge of when other parents send their children to us to protect them as well. So what happens with a guy like me goes into court with you is usually the parents of the other kids that were drinking are there, and they are outraged that you allowed their child to drink, become drunk, sick, or whatever. And the system kind of gets bogged down in the abilities that I have to smooth over, for lack of a better word, the anger and angst and the fear that parents have to try to get a resolution, not to ruin the parent's life that made basically a dumb decision or uninformed decision that not even happened. And so the $5,000 of free advice you get from me tonight is don't do it.
All right, let's go over to Judge Bagley and talk about, in your experience with drug court, does marijuana use lead to other drugs and what you've seen?
The short answer is yes. Anecdotally, I can tell you that, at least 9 out of 10, if not all of them, the persons who have been through my program, which, we're right at 300 graduates since 2004, and they all start using at a young age for the most part. Alcohol and marijuana are the 2 drugs that I hear that they start with for the most part. So marijuana definitely, you've heard it described as a gateway drug. There's no question in my mind that it is, based upon the experience that I've had on the bench, in hearing these stories and hearing these accounts, factual accounts over the years. There's a big push to legalize marijuana in a lot of states, and that's a political issue that I'm not going to get into. I can't get into that. But I can tell you that being on the board of the National Association of Drug Court Professionals for the last 6 years, I just rolled off the board, we have a position statement which opposes the legalization of marijuana, the NADCP. You go on the website, you can look at the position statement, and the position statement is based upon evidence-based. It's evidence-based. Our folks at the NADCP have done studies to show that marijuana is dangerous. It is, it's something that will, of course, lead to other drugs as well. And we have a position in NADCP that opposes legalization. Of course, the drug courts are attacked nationally by the legalized drug crowds that, of course, the only way to get into drug court is to be arrested. So, you have to have committed a felony offense to get into drug court. So if drugs are legal, then you're not going to have that sort of guts, the ability for the criminal justice system to intervene in the lives of those people that need that accountability intervention. So you're going to see that with the legalized drugs movements, and of course some states have done that, Colorado being one, and I just urge you to go look and see what's happening in Colorado since marijuana's been legalized. But anyway, that's a long answer to that question.
That's okay, we know how judges are. Going to when we did a panel the last time we had the panel here, we failed to ask the school system to be a part of it, and that was a big mistake. So tonight we've got a school board member and we've got a school board representative, and we get a lot of questions to do with the school system. So I want to ask one of them to answer, what preventative steps is Forsyth County Schools taking to address substance abuse?
Well, I'll start
Substance
a little bit
use.
and pass it to Lindsay. She's in sports services and the staff. Being on the board You know, we wouldn't do what we do if we didn't believe in the kids and them becoming who they can be, and all that they can be. Trying to help them decide early not to go down this road is a passion of mine. So much that I've asked the board to give me authority to serve on the drug council officially as the board member. And so I take back to them regular updates on what we're working on. And I'm now working with Matt Meyer, who's sitting over here at the table, as co-chair of the youth committee. We're looking at ways to start this early. So what are we doing as a school system? I can bring you all the tactical things we're doing. You already saw the CHAMPS program and what that means. One thing you also saw in there that's very important is we're building relationships with these kids. We're trying to support the parents in their relationship with their kid. It's that three-legged stool and one of the legs. So we're working real hard. We've got a 5-year grant that we're just finishing up on alcohol prevention. And it's been a big project that we've rolled out, tried to work with that. We also work collaboratively from the district, trying to create strategies for the whole school, trying to think about all the kids, those that are your straight-laced kids that won't even get near this, and there are not many of those these days. A lot of them that are involved in their peer groups that are going to get involved, and how to help them make the right decisions. And we have to start back as early as 9 years old now to get this information to them. It's not the same school system that myself went to. There may be a couple of you out there that remember the stone tablets. A few of us, the drug situation in our school growing up was very different. And so we're having to educate more than anything. I think you've heard that tonight. Education is key. Relationships are key. So those are real strategies. We also have a curriculum called Too Good for Drugs. And we implement that in middle schools, trying to get those middle schoolers in the right mindset before they go to high school and get thrown right in the middle of this with the older kids. It's an important thing to teach them early and often, right? And we want to teach the parents as well. I think it's education on both sides. Like I said, school's not what school was back in the day when we went. So getting the parents educated, what to look for. If you haven't been up to the drug room up here, please come see it, because if you see anything in there, one thing I'll tell you that I've learned through drug addiction is that if you catch your kid doing drugs, they're in probably deeper than you ever expected. They've gotten sloppy. Because guess what? These kids are smart. I don't know how many times they have to help you with your computer, but I guarantee you they probably can help you with your drugs too. They understand it in a big way. So we're hoping to get everybody educated. And the one thing that I can get you educated on tonight that's very simple. Go home, look in your medicine cabinet. If you have opiate drugs in particular, but very potent drugs in your drug cabinet that you're not going to use today, get rid of them. There's the easiest way to get rid of them is take them to the precincts. Both north and south, we have a drop-off box where you can leave those prescription drugs safely. That's the right way to get rid of them. As the Drug Council, we're looking to expand that across the county in different ways. We're hoping to have more of those facilities, have more convenient ways for you to bring back those drugs. Because guess what? 9 times out of 10, they're getting them to school. And that's sad to say, but tell your neighbors that too. Make sure everybody knows not to have them in the house. That's step 1 to preventative. Step 2 is have that relationship and communicate early and often. So we're hoping to get the videos that you saw earlier as a toolbox to you. And I'll let Lindsay talk a little bit about the toolkit out on the websites that we have that hopefully will help you as well. We also have policies and procedures. As Judge talked about, I hate to say it, but a lot of times it comes to the point where that person using drugs is going to get in trouble. If they get in trouble in school and it's not a felony, we have tribunal and policy and procedures that we follow in order to go through the process of helping that student make a better decision. A lot of times it's punitive in nature, but as we've talked about, punitive is not always the right way to fix this. It's education. So we're looking very closely at how we can better educate not only that student, but the parent as well, especially after they've had an incident of getting caught. Hopefully this will be the last time they get caught, and understand it before they go to college, where it's totally out of control and running rampant. So that's really the passion that I have. And I'll pass it along to Lindsay and let her share a little bit more about what really the schools are doing inside the walls.
I want to first start saying that what we do know is that Heather mentioned earlier that the earlier we talk, the better off we are. So we want to start early. And as you heard tonight, and Tom mentioned, We also had the kids come up. The Chance program means so much to our kids. I think we heard it best when we heard them talk about the program at the elementary level. We have that program in 10 of our elementary schools, and we also know that our SROs that deliver that program are great, but we know that the other SROs we have in the schools are vital to developing relationships with our students. We know when our students have someone at the school that cares about them, that they can go and talk to, that they're more comfortable telling if they have something going on with their lives. We also know if they can have somebody that's like an accountable partner for them, maybe a mentor, that they are less likely to engage in risky behavior. So we encourage students to be paired up with mentors. We have a community-based mentoring program, and there's also a mentor meeting here in our community as well. And at the middle school level, Tom mentioned our Too Good for Drugs curriculum, which works to help develop interpersonal skills for our students. And it also ties in no consequences that students would have in regards to drug use that they may go through. And at the high school level, we have provided Too Good for Drugs that our teachers use as a classroom guidance type lesson. So it's kind of up to their discretion how they deliver that to our students. So we're thankful that we have the Too Good for Drugs program. It is funded by the 5-year block grant that we've had that just ended through the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. Through that grant, our goal was to reduce the early age of onset among youth in Forsyth County. The age of onset in Forsyth County for alcohol use is 13 years old. That is way too young. The state average is just a little over 12, but we know that 13-year-olds, consuming alcohol, they're more likely to use that as a gateway drug and engage in other risky behaviors. With that said, I just want to encourage anyone to stay involved in your kids' lives. It's so important to communicate with them. If it's not you, some other adult role model that's there for them that they can communicate with as well. And we also have in our schools, you may have heard about the 7 mindsets, the habitudes, the Leader in Me, or the Ryan Clark Academy model that some of our schools are using. It's a social and emotional curriculum program that they have elected to use. Each school is a little bit different, so I encourage you to get involved in your child's school, or maybe a local school that's near you, and ask how that they are addressing the social and emotional needs of our students.
Before we leave y'all, we've had 2 things that have come to us, questions that, one that y'all submitted, one that was submitted to us, that the child states, if the child states that they have seen drug deals or drugs being sold at school, what should they do? And why does the school system not bring dogs in more frequently or not do searches at the school more frequently?
Okay, I'll take a try at both of them. Number one, you've seen up here Crime Stoppers. We put a presentation together that we've been flipping on the screen. You can anonymously text a situation and let them know. You can contact school safety. I've done it myself. I've had knowledge and went in and anonymously gave them the information and let them do their investigation. The SROs are always willing to take that information. You've got a lot of avenues, whether it's Crime Stoppers, being anonymous, Alert School Administration, going in and telling them. There's always an opportunity, and that may help a child stop there, not get in any further trouble before they get into real trouble. So that's number one. As far as dogs go, and I know we have the head of the canine unit, I think, even here tonight. He may can speak to it a little later. I think he's hiding in the back now. I went through the Citizen Law Enforcement Academy, and part of that, we had a canine demo. You learn that canines are, for better term, weapons. They are very, very trained, and we even as observers had to be very cautious and very still when those dogs were brought out to do a demo for us. You have to understand, bringing them into a school is an opportunity. We have to actually do a lockdown in order to bring a canine into the school. We've looked at possibly getting a drug dog, which is not a canine. What that means is all they do is alert on drugs. That's a little bit different process. We've looked at it. I've talked to some other organizations that have these dogs. So we're seeking that out. That's an opportunity. We're hoping that they don't bring them to school. Again, trying to be preventative, get them out of the household first. That's probably the biggest thing. They're not going to dealers down in Atlanta a lot of times to get those drugs. They're bringing them from home and from their brothers and sisters. So that's number one in prevention. The dogs are a great idea, and like I said, we're looking at them. I know I've had comments with the sheriffs, and we talked about bringing one of those dogs in. They cost money, like everything else, and we're going to have to look at doing that, see if, and how often we do that. Let them create a relationship with those students so that it's not a weapon, that they can use it a little differently. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. I want to get back to parents, because we've got a lot of parents here. And Edward Bailey, talk to the role of a parent, and is it a parent's fault, and are you a bad parent if your child has an addiction problem?
Yeah, so I am a parent now, so these answers get a little bit more personal, and I think I can empathize a little bit more. And so, can a parent overreact is kind of the question I would think. And I would say absolutely not. Tom Cleveland and John Wright really alluded to this. This generation is facing different challenges than previous generations. The drug scene, the drug market, and the drugs that are on the street are not the same as they were. Some of the staple narcotics are the same. We've heard them for generations, all the way back, heroin, cocaine, things like this. But they're now being laced with elephant tranquilizers and crazy things that are on the streets now, and they're just much more deadly, much more unpredictable. And so, the thing that we all care about the most, and the thing that really unites us as a community, is really our love for family. And so when you're dealing with your loved one, something that you care about more than anything else in this world, it's not a time to be concerned about if you're going to overreact when you find out something's going on, or if you have suspicion that something's going on. Now, I do think it is important, as some of the other panelists mentioned, that relationships are key inside of a family. Communication is really important, so you want there to be a safe, communicative environment so that your child feels comfortable to come and talk to you about these things. And so, what's that mean? Well, that means to not blow up and react when you find out something. You want to be that safe person so they don't have to go to a mentor. And so I think that's something that a parent can do. But if you suspect that something is going on, or you've caught them, do not be afraid to mine all the way into their life, to lean in, to break all the boundaries. Don't be afraid about being cool, like somebody else mentioned. And like we're talking about tonight also when it comes to the stigma, sometimes as a parent, we can personalize this in the wrong way. We can personalize this and make it about us. And especially in communities like this, and demographics like we live in, really wealthy environments like we live in, stigmas can be worse here than anywhere else, because we care so much about what other people think about us. We care about what we look like in society and what our friends think about us. And so we personalize this in the wrong way, and we make it about us. We start to wonder, is it my fault? And did I do something wrong? And what will other people think? And at that point, we're really endangering our family, because we're then the defense that keeps our family from getting help. And so I think that's the wrong way to personalize it. The right way, I would say, to personalize it is addiction is always going to affect the whole family. It's never just going to be one member of the family. And so an important thing I think that you can do to personalize it is to lead by example, like a parent really should. And so, on the cover of this art, we've got a bunch of fingers pointing when it comes to stigma. And it's going to kind of be the same way when we're pointing at our child and telling them, do this, do that, change this, change that. I'm a parent of a 3-year-old, and that just doesn't work. I've learned that already. They don't respond well to that. They're going to model our behavior. And so since addiction affects the whole family, one thing that you can do as a parent is do what you're asking them to do, to pursue your own process of getting healthy, to pursue your own process of getting educated, and really start to change some of those things inside yourself, because they are left with free will. One of the toughest things as a parent is to realize that they still get to make a choice. But what you can choose and what you can control is to lead by example. And there's a lot of resources that are in the room tonight for you to do that. But start a process for yourself, get educated, and then they're probably going to be more receptive to you being willing to do what you're asking them to do.
And sticking with the family and the family issue, Luann, I know you work a lot with families and have dealt with the family issue yourself. What would be your advice in dealing with family situations, whether it be your spouse or your child? I know your questions all have to do with that.
I am both the daughter of alcoholics and mother of an alcoholic, and as we've heard, we are all affected by it. And the stigma, for me, kept me very isolated. I didn't talk to my friends and neighbors about it because I did personalize it. I took it on as like I was a bad mother. I should have done something different, said something different. And I became totally obsessed with what I thought was saving her life. And I became as sick as she was. And I didn't use a lot of the kindness and love that we're hearing about tonight. I became very controlling, and was trying to tell her everything to do, because I, in my infinite wisdom, thought I knew all the answers. To the point that at one point in a treatment center, I was calling the treatment center to tell them how to do treatment. And it was at that point that someone recommended that I might want to check out an Al-Anon meeting, which I was grateful for. It did several things for me, because I lived in constant fear. I was not sleeping. I was not doing any self-care. And my relationship with my daughter was deteriorating because of the friction between us. We didn't know how to talk about it. What a support group did for me was break the isolation, which has been critical for me to be able to learn a common language that my daughter was learning eventually in her recovery program. It has strengthened those bonds. But the stigma that the family members suffer is really as severe as it is for the addicts and alcoholics in our life. It's just very different, because we get told as parents what we should be doing different if we had owned it. So we don't talk about it. The other piece that I think is really critical is the siblings of the other family members are also very affected. And I have a lot of concern about, particularly in school-age kids, when their older brother or sister, or even a parent, is very affected by disease, that no one's talking to or helping educate the other children in the family. And there are so many resources out here in the community. We're one of the few communities in Georgia that has an Allen team. We have one right here in Cumming. And it's a support group of teens that teaches them about disease, which is critical for our family members to learn that this was a disease. My child did not have a moral character flaw. It was a disease. So I needed to take the shame off. And siblings and other family members, I think, can benefit from learning that too. Today, the support and the open communication that Edward was talking about is critical in our family and in a broader community of recovery that Forsyth County has to offer. So I can't recommend it enough. There are a number of resources in the community. A lot of our family members struggle with mental illness as well, and there are family support services for mental illness as well. So I encourage you to visit the booths around the room, reach out, ask for help. It will help your recovery. I mean, I consider myself a recovering person as a family member, because I did have to recover from the effects, as does my child and other family members.
Anne, tell us about, you had the question, how do I know if I or someone close to me is addicted to alcohol or drugs?
It is not as easy as it sounds like, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and work for the juvenile court. I've worked in the field of addiction for 25 years and have felt very confident in what I was doing and working with folks and working with families. But I must say that with my own adult son, I didn't see it, and all the signs were there. Sometimes I think it's really difficult as a parent because we are not objective at all, and there's some denial as well. I saw a mood change, but I wrote that off as just being irritable, maybe depressed, maybe this, maybe that, about various things going on in his life. Saw behavior change. We were seeing more mood swings. a weight loss, loss of friends. He was already out of college, but the circle of friends that he had were dwindling. And then money. There was never enough money. And I remember so many times with families saying, he, she, they're always asking for money. You know, they just can't keep any money in their pocket. Well, the reason why they were struggling with money was because they were spending it for drugs or alcohol. So I think, you see so many changes. And like with high schoolers, their friends are their world. And when you see that change or they change their group of friends, take notice of that because it's really important. That's making a statement. And if you see behavior changes, the mood swings, and again, we know with teenagers, they have 50,000 moods, and I'm sorry for any of you teens here hearing this, but, various moods, but it is significant when you see on a regular basis the mood changes and the weight loss, weight gain, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, and then you start to miss things around the house. And this is in not just one socioeconomic group. This crosses all lines. All of us know someone or we're affected by, as a family member, by alcohol and drug addiction. And I think as Kendra mentioned, our son started with opiates after an accident and hurt his back. He loved it. Just like Kendra said, one pill for him, that started a 5+ years now of opiate addiction. And he has been in 9 treatment facilities before he has finally gone into one that he is ready for. So again, the signs are there. We just have to really look, and it doesn't matter, as I said, who we are or what we know. Sometimes we have to take off the blinders and really look and not be ashamed. There's a whole lot of shame and blame, a lot of stigma, but that is changing. And I think for more and more people to talk about it, talk to the school, express that to someone about your concern about your child, because they are there to help and they will help you. But also, as parents, like Edward was saying, we've got to be involved. And it is a disease, and it's something that all of us can work together on.
Finishing up on that, I know Laura has got different treatments work for different people. You want to expand on that?
Thanks, Cindy. Can y'all hear me? I was one of those people that needed something more than short-term recovery. And I firmly believe that our testimony is a key to breaking the stigma. So I'd like to share a little bit of mine with you tonight. I am probably what you would call an average Forsyth County resident. I am married, educated. I have 2 beautiful children. I'm a PTA member, volunteer, church member, employee. And I've lived in Forsyth County for about 14 years. We started our family here 10 years ago and had a beautiful baby girl. And walked away from the special education field to be a stay-at-home mom. Life was good. My husband and I were very happy. Our family was growing. We found out we were expecting our 2nd child, and like every expecting parent, we were looking through name books and setting up the nursery and telling everyone. And we were very devastated when that child didn't make it. And that sent me into a tailspin that I never recovered from. I was depressed, I was hopeless, I didn't want to live. we had another surprise about a year later when we found out we were expecting another child. And this time we weren't excited, and we weren't picking out names, and we weren't telling our family members. We were just afraid that that child too wasn't going to make it. Within a couple of weeks of having my child, I was just depressed. I wasn't relieved or joyous that she was happy and healthy. I was just depressed. And my doctors finally put me on a combination of something that temporarily took away that pain I was feeling. It came in the form of Ambien and Xanax. The Ambien helped me sleep at night, and the Xanax helped me escape all day long. And I never turned back. One became 2, and 2 became 10, and 10 became 30. And before you knew it, I was in the throes of addiction. And my one and only concern in life became obtaining more pills. I went to meetings and I tried short-term recovery and outpatient, and that didn't work for me. And in just a low point of my life, I ended up becoming involved with a man who supplied me with all the pills I wanted, and I had an affair. And that ended my marriage. My husband left me. He ended up with my 2 children, and I just didn't care to live any longer. I found myself, after a bender, in rehab again, and I spent 3 days in ICU. I was comatose when I arrived there. I had no vital signs. And I knew that after being in this facility for 7 times, if I left there and I didn't do something vastly different from what I'd done before, that I was going to be dead, that I wouldn't be there to see those 2 little girls grow up. I researched a lot of options and really was looking for that quick and easy way out. And I didn't find the quick and easy way out. I found myself at the door of Abba House, and I spent 19 months there. And it was very different from the clinical setting that I'd sat in 7 times before. And we didn't even talk about addiction. We talked about my past. And my past was something I'd been running from all of my life. I grew up in a horrifically abusive situation, and that abuse went on for 10 years. And my mom married my stepfather, who was an Air Force colonel, when I was a freshman in high school, and we moved out of the country. And I got to walk away from that past. I got to walk away from the people who abused me, the people who were supposed to be there protecting me. And I've got to become a new person, and I never looked back. And that finally caught up with me during my program, and I had to go back, and I had to relive what that little girl went through, because I had to be able to forgive those people who'd hurt me. I had to be able to forgive myself for the things that I had done. And I had to unlearn all those things that those abusers told me, that I was worthless, that I was unlovable. I had to learn that I was God's child, and that He has more grace and mercy than any of us deserve. I sat in that room with other women who'd been through exactly what I'd been through before, and I knew that there was hope. It was almost 4 years ago that I walked through those doors, and I'm happy to say that God has brought me very far. In those walls of Abba House, I attended a recovery program with my ex-husband, who's no longer my ex-husband. We have a strong relationship, a foundation that wasn't there before, and we'll be there to see those little girls grow up and walk them down the aisle. I'm grateful for the program like this, because I realize that drug addiction is not a one-size-fits-all problem. We have many services in this area that provide rehabilitation for women and children and family members alike, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have been there. I'm grateful to now be on staff there. My husband and I are both recovery counselors at the program, the family recovery program for Abba House now. And for me, And I think for the women that we see coming in, the idea is to focus on the underlying issues that led to the addiction in the first place and get that intense counseling that they need. Doing this in a long-term recovery facility allows us to be away from the distractions and burdens of everyday life, so the focus is on recovery. As I think many people have mentioned before, I know Cindy has and Edward, another very key component of this is relationship. Addicts tend to isolate a lot, and if there's one thing that I hope everyone walks away with is that relationship is just a vital part of recovery. We need people who can uplift and hold us accountable and speak truth to us even when we don't want to hear it. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for what you've shared tonight. Kendra sent me a text and said that she had to leave. Her son had algebra homework and that he was really struggling and she had to get home to help him. But I just want to thank my church, Oak Grove, for bringing the youth tonight. And Dr. Norton says that we have got to get churches. That's a missing component, that we have got to get churches to realize the importance of getting the church to be a part of it. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for being here. It's so good to look up and see all of you guys be a part of this. We have always gotten great support from our Sheriff's Office, and I want to thank them. I want to thank, you want to stand up, the filming crew. Does anybody want to tell why they were here tonight? Do y'all want to tell about that, about what y'all are working on?
Sure. So we're here with a film crew. We're doing a documentary about heroin addiction and the problems of going through that, as well as the recovery process. I think there's a lot of media has been covering heroin recently, but it tends to focus more on the negative side in the beginning stages. So we're trying to tell a little bit bigger, wider picture, so that we can invest the time and kind of follow the journey of people actually going through recovery and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So we're here doing this project, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. Anything we can do to shed some light on it, so I think it's great. I know that we had, I think what Kendra did, that covered enough, Luann, or do you want to still end? Do you think?
I think that was fine.
Okay. And I just want to thank Judge Bagley and what all you do in drug court and the school system, and No Longer Bound helps us so much with this, and Edward with the design, and Heather with her expertise, and Tom stepped up, and I just feel like we're just like a great big family and community that comes together, and I want the new sheriff to just get in here with us and be a part of this with us, because it takes everybody. It takes all of us coming together and working together. Dallas is from Hall County, and every time we meet and come together like this, he tells us how lucky we are. He has told us over and over again how we are so far ahead of other counties. He's done this. Tell about what you've done in your golf tournament, about the Region 2, all the Narcan.
The Medical Association, the Medical Foundation in Gainesville awarded us $280,000 a year ago to equip law enforcement and other first responders with naloxone. So to date, we have been through about 25 different police and sheriff agencies all across North Georgia. And that's why I can make the statement I made to Cindy, that you're doing more in Forsyth County and have more people working on this than anywhere else I've seen. And I congratulate all of you for what you do.
Thank you. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you for your support, and just keep praying for new ways and new things that we can do, and stay involved in your schools and keep pushing and keep praying. Thank you. Thank you all.